and thank you so much for joining us for your Ring of Honor and TNA post-show. I'm still getting used to saying it. That's the most fluid. I've gone from the non-impact to the TNA letter since the switch back, but it is February 15th already. Thank you so much for joining us. We've got a lot of ROH to talk about tonight. Some really good stuff on the show. The women's tournament kicked off, which is a big one. The return of Kenny King to this brand was a very heartwarming thing. Love to see that. And a whole lot going on in TNA world as well. We ask you to get in your super chats if there's anything that you want to ask about, anything that you want to comment on as we go through this episode, and to please leave a thumbs up, as we are the little show that could over here on ROH TNA world. But your guys' support has been incredible. The fact that this usually runs between 1,500 and 2,000 views, upwards of that on really big weeks is so cool to me, because I don't even know if there's that many people subscribed to watch ROH, to be honest. So when you guys show out, it's something that we really, really appreciate. We're also going to ask you off the bat to subscribe to FightfulSelect.com. And I do want to keep clarifying, as I have been on most post shows, that things like injuries, like we saw to Shotzi Blackheart, things like the scandal, there is a free tier that you can subscribe to on Fightful Select. We try not to paywall things that feel icky to paywall whenever we can. You'll often get supplementary details to those injuries or those stories behind the paywall. You'll get a little bit more context and a more additional information, but for being able to follow something that is so much bigger than wrestling, or things that are more than creative or contracts and stuff like that, we do try to make it as accessible as possible for people. But for $5 in the business, my God, you do get a hell of a value back there. All the scoops you could possibly get, contextual details for scoops that other people break as well. Shawn goes really far out of his way to get as many perspectives on things as possible as he can, and to verify that things are correct, something that's becoming increasingly important in this world. Plus a bunch of bonus podcasts to get Shawn's Q&A. You get me and Alex Pulowski doing alternative pay-per-view post shows, and every other week you get Ask Rhapsody, which Reg got to do today. And we were talking before we got on here about how refreshing it was this week to not have a scandal or a giant executive shakeup at another company or anything like that kind of clouding. And we were able to get back to Graps a little bit, though those stories are being followed very closely by Shawn and actively worked on. But for us on the podcasting side, it was refreshing to kind of have something a little different, a little bit more of a palate cleanser. But how was Ask Rhapsody today? What'd you guys talk about?
It was a pretty good show today. 90% of the questions are if Swerve's going to win the championship at Revolution. Legit, they'd be like, is Swerve going to win? Then we answer another question, then the next question. What do you guys think about Swerve winning at Revolution? Everybody's super duper interested in the finale to this triple threat match. And I'm along for the ride. I'm stuck in between it's Swerve time, as we could see Kate, he's over like Rover. Fans are into it. All the pieces are there. But Samoa Joe, oh my goodness,
is he not doing incredible work?
Yo, before he was world champ, but since he's been world champ, he's been so locked in. The promos have been extra. His clothing, he's a world champ. And so it's I don't know if it's time to give it up yet. It's it's stuck between a really good place. You either continue Samoa Joe's great run or you get a Swerve run. So, I'm in all the way.
I said this on the Mark Order podcast yesterday. To me, I'm just such a fan of Samoa Joe. And I feel like there's never going to be a good time for him to drop to me, because I'm always going to be interested in the work he has to do as a world champion. I also think this being a triple threat, there's a very interesting possibility of Swerve comes out as champion and you get this side Hangman Samoa Joe feud out of it. Could be something that's really fun. Samoa Joe versus Hangman isn't something I knew I needed. And then when I was thinking about all the possibilities in this triple threat, I was like, oh man, them going at it could just be a blast, especially with Magnum mustache, heelish Hangman going at it. So that's fun. I'm glad you got a lot of questions about that on Ask Rhapsody. It's a very refreshed title picture. I loved a lot of what MJF did, but turning the page on it has been a really refreshing thing. But we're not here to talk AEW. We're here to talk some Ring of Honor, and we are going to get into it. We do want to thank Corey Mitchell for becoming a new member on YouTube. We thank you so much for the extra support and appreciate anybody that wants to support us in any of the plethora of ways I asked you to at the beginning of the show. But we get right into our women's tournament here, which was a blast. Now I'm going to run down the bracket and then we'll talk about the matches that we saw tonight as well, which I saved on my phone and not on my computer because I'm an idiot. Give me one second here. But tonight we started the show with Queen Aminata and J-Rod. We have Velvet versus Moon. We have Love versus Taya Valkyrie. We have Rachel Ellering versus Leyla Hirsch, which we also got tonight. Hogan versus Diamante that we got tonight. Billy Starks versus Robin Renegade, which we're getting next week. Mercedes Martinez versus Trish Adora. We're going to talk about that one. And FIFA Vaughn versus Abaddon, which I think is going to be super, super fun. So what I love about this tournament, before we get into the specific matches, Reg, is that we have a couple of people that feel like that they can take this title realistically. Like, to me right now, it feels like Queen Aminata, just from the backstage we got, the role that she's on. But it could very easily be Billy Starks. It could very easily be Diamante. Like, there's a lot of really fun directions this can go. And to me, that makes the tournament more exciting because I'm not already doing the elimination math in my head as easily. What are your thoughts on who you think might prevail as the winner in this?
I think what they're setting up with Queen Aminata is like hard to kind of deny the trajectory she's on. I was super duper happy to see Sandra Moon on here. She is an incredibly talented woman. She's had one of my favorite women's wrestling matches of the year so far at the last West Coast Pro Show. So it's great to see a couple of those pieces, her, Viva Van, Robin Renegade. Some people in here that they're probably not going to win, but great to see them represented. But yeah, just like you said, there's so many contenders on here. Mercedes, Aminata, Diamante, like any one of them could be like the winner of this and it'll all be good. And the thing that I like about it the most is a couple of these women, like Athena, like beat them, so they didn't feel like contenders or they were going to be in that division anymore, so they're kind of refreshed over here. It just feels good all around. This was a refreshing episode for women's wrestling, specifically in that championship.
Boy, was it. And the main event was like so intense and fun. I can't wait to talk about it. But we have some matches to get to before we do that. Starting off with Queen Aminata versus J-Rod, who looked great in this. I love how we got this consistent thing that everybody was pretty evenly matched until they weren't. And some of these ones that you had with like less familiar names. And that was the case here. Early, you have Aminata getting a near fall, but then it's kind of even. With some strikes being traded and some moves being traded. And then J-Rod goes for a quick pin off of a suplex. And then the push-ups happen, Reg. And Aminata is pissed. Yes. I love her presence, her facial reactions, the command that she has when she's pissed off. My God. She was very insulted by this and she retaliates with some strikes here. But winning with the headbutt into the pin to advance in the tournament, I loved how there's not really a story here. And then all of a sudden the push-ups happen and there was a story here. And the story was, you pissed off Queen Aminata and that's really bad for you. It's like, you're going to get hit with a headbutt, bad for you. Love this as an opener. Love what we're getting out of Queen Aminata since her return. And tons of reps. We saw her on Rampage and Collision and I think Dynamite as well. So she's been all over the place. Absolutely adore seeing this. Gonna let you take the wheel while I plug in my charger.
Yes, I think that the coolest thing I like about this is exactly what you said earlier about there being so many contenders. The match wasn't a squash, and it was kind of the story throughout the whole episode. It's like none of these matches were squashes. All of these women look like contenders, even the ones that are losing. Like J-Rod looked great here. Like she didn't get beat up. Like she kept up with Aminata between a whole lot of this, and she just looked like she was comfortable and was supposed to be there. But Aminata's on this trajectory that like it's gonna take a train, a missile, a grenade to stop her from winning this championship. And her just being like, do not disrespect me in this ring is just so good. She's so confident and hard hitting, and just her aura is crazy. It's like there's not a lot of wrestlers that are like her, and she kind of being one of the main players to get this championship is showing a lot. And her being on every episode of AEW Dynamite or AEW shows that somebody up there likes her a lot.
Yeah, and with good reason. She's fantastic in the ring. She's one of the most, when we talk about things like character versus gimmick, she is one of the most in command of her character. I would say Toni Storm is the most in command of her character / gimmick because she's like in this really insane happy medium with it. But from just the understanding the intention of every move she makes in the ring, Queen Aminata is just unbelievable at it. Love to see it. We also get a backstage from her, which we haven't gotten from a lot of other people, which I feel like kind of tips the hand of the booking a little bit, but just talking about what it means to represent Africa. And she didn't come all this way to be made a fool out of. She's the queen. It is her ring. It is her tournament. Absolutely loved what we got out of that backstage as well. If you have any extra comments on it, it was pretty precise, but effective, I thought.
Yeah, I was hoping that maybe we'll get some online, but it'll be more like the Continental Classic where all the winners just kind of got their thing off. So it doesn't feel like it's telegraphed as that, like, if only one or two people are doing these promos, it's going to feel like something. But if everybody's doing them, then it feels like that's what the tournament is holding on. But yeah, her getting even more time like that to express herself, talking about the silver is going to look great on her. It's all just more things that are going to get people to get behind her in this tournament. And I was looking on Twitter after her match and when this tournament has been announced, and a lot of people think that she's going to win this.
Agreed. And I think what was cool tonight is we haven't really gotten a lot of promos from her or backstages from her. So to get her just for a couple minutes to kind of speak here, I thought was a really great idea and effective thing to do. The work speaks for itself. She does not need an overwhelming amount of promo time, but it is very cool to see her speak in this. I was happy that they gave her the time to do that. And J-Rod looked great here in her debut as well. Yeah. Just an ass kicker and like a great look to her. My goodness. Like
really
she looks
good
like
look.
she's
tall, like presence, like she's she should be brought back strong. Yeah,
ricochet abs, like she's killing it. She looks fantastic. And just like someone you can kind of immediately know what they're about as soon as you see them, which I think is something that's a lot trickier to accomplish in wrestling than a lot of people think. So hope that she comes back around because she's fantastic. So we move on here to the Infantry, Shawn Dean and Carlie Bravo, who defeat Midnight Heat, Ricky Gibson, and Eddie Pearl. This was a fun match. The crowd was kind of dead for it, which makes no sense because the Infantry are great. And even after the match, you had Carlie Bravo just literally spinning all the way to the back, trying to wake this crowd up for something. But such is the case with these ROH tapings. It's a real up and down crowd situation, and there's not always so much you can do about it as a performer. But you have the Infantry here with some double team moves, cutting off Midnight Heat from each other when they're reaching in for that tag. And then finally we get Dean and Bravo with the opening for the boot camp to get the win. This is a good match. And what follows up later makes a little bit more sense for this match, I would say. There was a really, really fun promo that takes place later in the show. But this, I was like, oh, this was solid. This was good stuff. And then when I saw what we got later, I was like, I see where we're going with this a little bit. But no complaints, nothing particularly outstanding. Always love seeing the Infantry in action. Wasn't as familiar with Midnight Heat. I think I'd seen them maybe on AEW Dark a time or two, but nice to see them getting an appearance here as well. Your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think my favorite thing about this match was that at the end of it, Caprice was like, this is all great. I love the Infantry. I just want to see them get more wins. Kind of echoing the same things we say on this podcast of like, you guys are amazing. We love the Infantry, all three of y'all, but we just want to see you rack up more wins. So seeing them get a win here was cool. They're out there shining. They get to show exactly who the Infantry was. The Midnight Heat kind of having a flavor of the Outrunners playing into what was to come later too was really cool. But I think just Shawn and Carlie gaining confidence every week, being put in positions like this is great. But just like Caprice said, more wins, you guys, more wins.
We're going to have a little talk real quick, okay? Because I would like Carlie Bravo and Shawn Dean to get some wins. I mean, the most successful world champ of all time, and Shawn Dean has 2 wins against him and 0 losses. I'm just saying. Yep. But we're going to talk about Trish Adora in a minute. And ROH, you're in trouble. You're in trouble with me. You're grounded for 2 weeks. No TV for you.
I need the beep 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 like censored button right now sound effects because it's gonna get bad when that comes up.
It's gonna get really bad. But I'm letting you know that punishment is coming because I was legit angry. But before I was legit angry, I was legit excited about legit Leyla and Rachel Ellering, who have had this frenemy relationship. They're finally friends and on the same page. And we get this match, which I love the way that they booked the friendship with tension story in this. Surprise, Kate loves technical wrestling. I know that's a shock.
Wow.
I know.
We are all
Breaking
so
news.
surprised.
Huge scoop. Stole it right from Shawn. I love technical wrestling, but matches like this are exactly why I love what we got out of Leyla Hirsch and Rachel Ellering, because it's very easy to look at them and say, Leyla Hirsch comes up to Rachel Ellering's hip. Like, how in the hell is someone supposed to beat somebody like that? But if you have an arm bar and somebody's on the ground, it's actually pretty easy to get there. I love what an absolute equalizer technical wrestling is when it's done right. Everybody's got an arm. Anybody's got a limb that you can break here, right? And that's exactly where Leyla Hirsch's head was, I felt like, during this. So we have this injury spot in the middle of the match where Leyla Hirsch goes to lock in that armbar on Rachel Ellering in a really, really well done job. I felt like one of the more realistic injury looking spots by Rachel Ellering selling this dislocation thing. They have Doc come and pop it back in, and she says that she can continue. She takes the arm brace off to sell that it's like swelling and everything. Absolutely loved what we got here. But with that injury, we have Ellering trying to get Hirsch in the finish it, but tricked Hirsch as she got close to the 2 count. Hirsch gets mad about this and works over Ellering until she gets the 1, 2, 3. So just a lot of really, really fun story in this, not only with the injury happening, but Leyla Hirsch continuing to just decidedly hurt her friend because she was pissed off about the way that Ellering went about business. Turnabout's fair play, I guess. But I just loved how this match was laid out. And then the promo that we get backstage after is just Rachel Ellering dejected about the loss and Hirsch showing up and apologizing about the injury. That's not how she wanted to win. They're on the same page here. But I just love the layers that unfolded through the lens of technical wrestling. And I thought it was a brilliant way to go about business here. What did you think of this match in the promo after?
When you were describing Leyla Hirsch earlier, an idea popped into my brain. Leyla Hirsch, Deonna Purrazzo, and Serena Deeb as a team. Just book it already. Just make them the faction. They're destroying everybody in the world. Everybody's arms are getting ripped off. I love that with how many matches we got today in the women's tournament, how different they all were, and this one was totally different. They picked limb work, which I thought was a great idea. Them kind of stopping the match to sell, give Rachel Ellering some more sympathy from the fans, give them from the viewers at home of like, should she still be in this match? Showing Leyla Hirsch that even if this is my friend, I'm still a killer. I want that championship. There's nothing in the world that's going to stop me from this championship. And you could put my friend first. You could put my friend last. I'm going to rip her arm off on the way to this championship. Storytelling, Kate. They say that matches aren't stories, but look what we got here. Who would have imagined? Leyla Hirsch's moonsault also was awesome. She hit that.
Yes.
I thought this match was really good from a technical standpoint, a strike standpoint, selling standpoint. Really strong stuff from both of these women.
The Tecker fans eating well in 2024, including in women's wrestling, which is pretty cool to say. You mentioned Deonna before, Serena D back, but this I love, especially in an environment like ROH where the in-ring can be the story. Just aces all around. Absolutely adored it. And to your point, all of these matches did feel different. If you ask me what I thought the best match of the night was, it was probably the main event. If you ask me what my favorite match of the night was, it was probably this. And I love that sometimes we get something that's just overwhelmingly the most awesome thing on the show. This had a lot of different options to kind of pick from because the stakes were equal in 4 of the matches. So it's a pretty cool little episode to pick through here. Well, backstage, we have Nyla Rose giving a promo. And if you were like, hey, what are the different pieces of her outfit? She's got you covered. Her hat says hat, her shirt says shirt.
Yep.
This is a whole bunch of fun. I thought there was like a cool pop culture thing I wasn't up on because I am like, I shop at Macy's or whatever the fuck. So I didn't even, but no, this is just her being extremely silly. I loved it. I absolutely adored it. But she's giving a promo asking where Athena is because she's been dodging her all this time. And here comes Athena with payback from last week, hitting her with the table, and then Rose lifting her up like that. I don't know what the meme is even from, but like the bigger gal lifting up the littler gal. It's really cool to see.
I know why you don't know where it's from.
Is it from Pornhub or something? I figured as much. It had that vibe, but it also felt maybe a little bit more wholesome than that, like in a little bit of voice.
It started out wholesome.
You know what? Fair. Very fair. Touche. But later, we have Athena cutting a promo about how Nyla has knocked her on her ass and how she's tired of it. I loved this promo from her saying, like, everybody else she's been able to basically control and beat up, essentially. But every time she stumbles across Nyla, she's just getting her ass kicked. And she is in this position where she's the one who can't back down now. We've seen her go from extremely dominant to kind of dodging Nyla a little bit. And also... anytime she does come across Nyla, having to pay the consequences for it. So it feels very much like we're headed in an Athena baby turn direction, or at least a tweener. But I just love how different this feud has felt because someone bigger and stronger, and now she's questioning maybe better than her, is involved in this. Adore this. And I love the way the story is laid out. We'll save the final segment between the two of them for later. But what did you think of these pieces of the story tonight?
Yeah, I love the backstage segment with Nyla with all of her gear that says what the gear is. Amazing way to start. Athena coming in, the beatdown. I thought all of it was really strong. I love that story that you're saying here of Nyla kind of coming and beating Athena at her own game. Like, she's the funny / dominating / get you in the shape, but also is really endearing and trying to teach you something, but will also bash your head in. Like, she's doing all the things that Athena's kind of known for and kind of outdoing her. And Athena's like, well, what's going on here? Like, I don't really, it seems like she's like, whoa, this is a blur. Like, I don't really understand why this is happening so fast. I love for the last couple of weeks that they've been the string throughout all the Ring of Honor episodes. It was the same way here of like their backstage segments were like the glue kind of holding this episode together. Really strong stuff from Athena with the promo too, of showing some sympathy, showing that she's not the angry person that she's been. She's in a weird position of kind of wanting to be the minion leader, but also having to try to get Nyla off of her back. Great stories being told. Could Nyla win this championship, Kate? What do you think?
Man, I've been thinking about that a little bit. And I feel like the fact that I'm even wondering shows how great of a job they've done with this story. Because in the beginning, I was like, it'll be a fun defense for Athena. Like, immediately hadn't really considered it. And now I'm kind of wondering, I do feel like, I don't know, Nyla Rose hadn't really been doing much in AEW. So maybe this is a great home for her. But from just like a brand personality perspective, it feels maybe more like some of those contenders that are in the TV title picture maybe match up here. I still think maybe if Billie doesn't win the TV title, she wants to come back for it because she lost her chance at the other championship. So maybe Billie's more ready this time. So it doesn't necessarily feel, there's no reason that it doesn't feel like she couldn't rather. But it also, I don't feel like if the payoff for this incredible reign is Nyla Rose. What are your thoughts on this question that you posed?
You know, it's tough because depending on what they're going to do with Athena, that was one of the questions earlier in Ask Rhapsody too, of like, are they going to move Athena up with all these women coming in to the main roster that she could have amazing matches and all these things with? Like, is it time? And it's like, yeah, it's been time for a long time. So it's like, if they're going to move her up, Nyla might be a good transition. But like you said, a couple of the women in the TV title tournament, I think would be like if Aminata lost the title tournament, but ended up beating Athena, like that would probably hit a little bit harder than her even winning the TV title. So there's things like that, but it's like also it's Nyla. She's kind of been killing it. She's shown that if she was one of the faces of this ROH brand, that it'd be entertaining and we'd have a lot to look forward to. So it wouldn't be the worst, but yeah, we might be in that. A couple of people are saying in the chat of that Athena territory of putting someone over, and you're not really putting Nyla over. She's already over.
That's the thing, is she doesn't necessarily need to get made by it. Like this title reign has been I can make a star with whoever I drop it to kind of thing. And I don't think Nyla needs it, but I'm really liking the story we're getting here. So I don't think I would be mad about it. Now, this is an interesting point too. Travis Lindsay saying if Camille does sign, ROH might be a better fit for her. I've been thinking about that too. Camille versus this particular roster, I think could be really great. And she is someone coming over from NWA world, very, very different environment than AEW. Now, there's a lot of people that have done so really well. Eddie Kingston, Ricky Starks, Thunder Rosa. There's an endless list of people. When I tell people NWA used to actually be good, and I name those names, they're like, wait, really? And I say,
don't believe it.
People don't believe me. People don't believe me, but Ricky Starks, I feel like, was the steal of the century from NWA. But I think ROH could be a really cool place for her. It just depends what they want to do. She's such a unique talent that I feel like there might be some good ways to kind of acclimate her a little bit in ROH. And I just have such an interest in seeing her versus Rachel Ellering, her versus Leyla Hirsch, her versus Queen Aminata, her versus Taya. Like, there's a lot of women that I personally want to see the feuds of. But it depends on what their plans are. If it feels like she's a big incoming free agent, maybe you want to kind of put her on the AEW brand. But it'll be interesting. Where do you think Camille lines up?
That's a great point that is being brought up here, because I kind of thought she might have fit well in this ROH TV title tournament because of exactly what you're saying. She lines up so well with a lot of these women. Would have been a kind of great way to introduce her because, like you said, a lot of people don't know this amazing feat that she did over in NWA because they didn't watch that. They couldn't access it. NWA is NWA. So there's all these reasons that she's going to come in she's going to come in way different than like Diona and Taya came in, because they both came off Impact Wrestling, which people actually watch sometimes. So it's like they have to find a way to introduce her. And I thought that this would be a great way, but she's such a like brooding big presence that it's not really going to matter. Just put her on TV and people are going to be like, oh shit, who's that? You know what I mean? Like, she's one of those kind of special talents that there's ways to make it work in any direction. So, but yeah, I thought she might have been part of this tournament, but she's going to come in and be a force on any roster that she's in for any of those championships, just because, like I said, her presence and everything she kind of represents.
Agreed. I wouldn't hate the idea of, and I don't want to get into vignette talk because we know where that can go. But she's someone that, because she was on a lesser known brand and because of her stature and presence, like, she might be someone that's worth putting together like a couple weeks or one longer vignette of like, hey, this is who this person is. It's a big deal that she's here. This is what she accomplished in NWA, because she had that title for over 500 days, I think. Like, yeah, crazy, crazy, crazy stuff. So I think it would be worth doing that from a crowd that, as I feel like, hip to wrestling as AEW and ROH crowds are. This might be something that is helpful.
800 days, Matthew Hook says. That's a lot. That's a long time.
My goodness, was it really 800? Tells you how much. Tells you how much I know about my NWA, but good stuff. You know what I'm realizing as I'm going down this list of matches? There's like 2 men's singles matches on here, and it's really cool that we're talking so much about women's wrestling, like, very organically, and without it being like a, oh my god, women's wrestling. Like, that's just
this
where
might be the most lopsided main wrestling type of program that's ever happened, with like more women's matches than men's matches. That's rare. Besides like all women's promotions, like, this doesn't happen. This is really cool that this is just normal. The main event was a women's match, and it's not like some milestone. It's just like, yeah, that's what Ring of Honor does. It's so cool.
It is. I will give credit to NXT for that too. I don't like the way that they go about the booking of their women's division, but the screen time is almost 50-50. Very cool to see that showing up here on Thursday nights. And tonight was actually very heavily female dominated as far as singles matches in particular go, and those matches having some stakes. Not a lot of championships, but I'm going to not complain about that because I'm in a good mood. But we get a men's tag match here. A lot of fun to be had with the Outrunners and Lights Camera Faction, Ice Williams and Action Braxton. The Outrunners start by giving the code of honor to themselves, a very old school heel move. Absolutely loved that. Outrunners with their 80s shenanigans. Finish this is where the story of this match is that they hit the boot camp, the Infantry's finisher, for the win. Very 80s style match, but this leads to the backstage with Lexi Nair and the Infantry, and Moriarty arrives and says that the Outrunners stole their finisher and that he's been watching them for like 37 years and they've never used it before. He makes a reference to the Sportatorium, which popped me huge. This was such a fun way to go about business. The Infantry just feels so different than the Outrunners in every possible way. Like, they feel so fresh and hip and modern to me, and just really, really like modern day cool. And the Outrunners, such an 80s throwback. This was an absolute blast. I love the promos that we're getting here. I would love some Infantry wins, but this was a blast. Your thoughts on the match and the backstage that we got?
You know, Kate, it's been a couple weeks now. I was on the Twitter account, very upset at a match.
Sorry to hear that. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I just thought you meant being on Twitter in general.
Yeah, in general. I was very upset about a match with the Young Hook where he beat up two guys and squashed them in a match. And then a week later, those same two guys got beat up by Brian Cage in a handicap match. And I was like, why in the world are you putting an established tag team in squash matches like this? And everybody's like, that's not what they are. They're dumb. Nobody cares. They never get wins. Who cares about the Outrunners? And I'm like, none of you guys watch Ring of Honor, first of all. And second of all, they're never going to be if you do them like this. What are you doing? So they announced yesterday, they put out this graphic. The Outrunners are going to be on Ring of Honor. I'm like, why are they emphasizing them? I hate them. You told me to hate them 2 weeks ago. Why are you doing this to me? So this whole Outrunners thing, I was out on it until Lee Moriarty confronted the Infantry. And then I was all the way back in because that shit was hilarious. I don't know why they're doing this feud with them taking their finisher, but they got me right back in. I was like, actually, I understand what they're doing. It's a mini feud on Ring of Honor, and I'm all in. I just don't want the established tag teams like the Outrunners because they really can be something if given the chance, and they shouldn't be in squash matches. But that's another story for another day. I love them here. I love them going with the old school thing, saying they've been doing this move for a long time. They're in the Iron Claw, not the movie, the original Iron Claw with the Von Erich boys. So good stuff.
Very clever. You know what? The only thing that I have to take objection to with that, Reg, is that it's not another story for another day. It's a story for today because I'm sick of the AEW roster making chumps out of ROH tag teams. They did it with Vincent and Dush with MJF. They've done it several times. And people that work in wrestling podcasting that I know, Alex Pulaski, call them the jobbers because that's what they are in AEW. And it's not fair to have them reduced to that, I don't think, myself. So it's not a different story for another day. It's a story for right now because I like the Outrunners and I'm sick of having to tell people that they're really good. Be nice. But
shame.
Something that was nice to talk about here was Bryan Keith and Slice Boogie. It was so nice to see Kenny King and Slice Boogie back tonight. How fun was this? We get a really fun piece of storytelling from Slice Boogie where like Bryan Keith's just entrance and his gunslinger outfit kind of intimidated Slice Boogie off the top. Like that is some veteran stuff right there, honest to God. Like that really, really is. If it's like someone's presence just makes you intimidated and I can read that off of you as a wrestler, veteran stuff. But quick victory for Bryan Keith here with the Around the World cutter. Love seeing Slice Boogie here. Reliable talent, Caprice Indian, always killing it, giving some nice context for who Slice is and why he's important in wrestling here. But Bryan Keith continuing to take over the world. I don't know if you know this, Reg, but he was number 1 on the BWI 500.
What's that?
It's a list that my super awesome co-host makes.
Me.
Featuring the best black talent. Oh my God, that's you.
Yeah, this episode was really good because there was a lot of friends on this. And like you said, that's how good Slice Boogie is, because if you know Slice Boogie, that man ain't scared of nobody in the world. He'll fight your mom. He'll fight your dad. He'll fight anybody. He doesn't care. But for him to be able to emote these emotions on screen, just because that's the role he's here to do, shows how good of a wrestler he is. I hope he gets a shot, man. I've been a fan of Slice for a long time. Just a real New York badass fool that will fight you. Again, don't forget. But this was the Bryan Keith showcase. I will admit, you guys, Bryan Keith came out with an entrance song, and I was like, what is this shit? I got online. Ruckus said that it's a stock song because there's some paperwork still happening. So fret not. Still tipping. We'll be here someday, one day. But yeah, at first I was like, what in the world? Who do I have to send a suggestion box email to with Washington? I just, but I sat and thought about it, and I let everything develop how it did, and I'm happy about it. But no, this was awesome to see Bryan Keith after getting his graphic and everybody being excited about him getting signed. Here he goes, getting a win. What a great way to kind of establish yourself in the Ring of Honor division. A couple of people have been in the chats, and you guys are right. We don't know where the champions are. I'd like to know what Bryan Keith is fighting for. What's his purpose here in Ring of Honor? I'd like to know what some other people's purpose is here in Ring of Honor, because we don't have any champions to show for it. But, another story for another day. But I do like my guy Bryan Keith coming in, getting his offense in, getting to show who he is, and getting to get some vignettes, getting to get the showcase of a wrestler that they are behind. I'm so excited about it because you guys know how I feel about Bryan Keith. This is great.
Bryan Keith, fantastic talent. I know there are people calling for the is it Bandito, Bryan Keith, Hangman trio that everybody's booking? I'm kind of in on that idea. But if you want him working ROH consistently, I would like the idea of him possibly being the one to dethrone Kyle Fletcher and earning his way up there. I think that could be really, really fun. In fact, I might lay money on it, Reg. I'll tell you what. And if I needed to be educated about where I would be making bets, there's one place that I would look. And is it because they pay us money? Partly, but also they have the earliest betting odds that you can have. Lots of advantages when you use BetOnline AG.
Hey guys, I'm here to tell you about BetOnline.ag, the official betting partner of Fightful. It's not just an online platform. They've been trusted for over 25 years. They boast a focus on the player approach and have built their reputation on offering their clients nothing but the best. From cutting-edge technology to enticing promotions and the latest sports betting odds. Whether it be wrestling, MMA, boxing, or football, baseball, basketball, or racing, anything you can think of. All major sporting events are covered by BetOnline.ag. Fast payouts, highest credit card acceptance industry-wide, safe and secure online environments, and their live betting feature allows you to bet on your favorites weekly and easily and in real time. BetOnline.ag. That's where we're going at Fightful. That's where we suggest you go as well. That's where we get all of our odds at. BetOnline.ag. Only bet what you can, and please bet responsibly.
Guys, it's not just wrestling you can bet on. There's plenty of other sports too. Football's over, but baseball's coming back, baby. That's my jam. But BetOnline has been so good to us. If you are a betting person, we encourage you to use them. If you are not a betting person, we encourage you to tell them that you found out about them through us, because they made a big investment in us. How it goes a long way if you guys let them know that you know about them through Fightful. But we appreciate you guys even entertaining the idea of checking them out on behalf of us, and with all the money that you're winning from BetOnline AG, because I'll tell you what, the track record, fantastic. You're going to win some dollars, and you're going to spend them on FightfulSelect.com. And here's why. All the scoops you could possibly ever want. Context for the scoops that Shawn doesn't get. Bonus podcasts.
Yep.
Like every day of the week. Ask Rhapsody, featuring this fella. More of me. with Alex Pulowski.
Yeah.
If you're like, oh my God, I love this ROH show so much. Where can I get more? Behind the paywall at FightfulSelect.com.
Boom.
And boy, oh boy, there is some inaccuracy out there in the world. So get the accurate details, not aggregated from anybody else, straight from the fountain. All right, good stuff. But we got a question here that's this is a fun one. LFI is adding, who would you add? Stephanie Vecchio. Listen, if they can steal Stephanie Vecchio from CMLL, oh boy, do it. She is one of the most complete women's wrestlers that is not on enough people's radars in the world. I have seen her in some incredible matches. Her tournament match against Mercedes Moné, a thing of beauty. Always impressive. She's going to be locking up with Willow in CMLL as well. They both are part of trios. I'm not going to talk about the other people on Willow's side. Doesn't make me very happy, but very excited to see what happens when Steph and Willow are in the ring at the same time, God willing.
Kate, why?
I don't know. Like Tessa Blanchard, just
why?
The track record is there. Okay,
it's so visible. Just like Google her name. It's right there. It's gonna be the first thing that comes up, probably. I don't
like to root for people's downfalls, but if I did, it would probably be the downfall of someone who said something racist, denied it, then admitted to it, then tried to profit off of it with the t-shirts, then had her own rehab project, bullied her way out of that rehab project, and now should be working at the high school gyms that she was working at before instead of a major promotion. But I digress. I don't understand.
I mean, these people be booking Alberto Del Rio, Marty Skrull. They don't care about nothing.
It is true. They are consistent with how much they just will book anyone, but never like to see it. Stay away from our precious Willow, please. But I'm very excited to see Steph and Willow lock up. Very, very excited for that because I think there's some magic that could happen. Who would I add to LFI? Man, what you got?
I don't know. It's a tough one.
I know, that's one I need to think on. Because I also don't know enough about luchadors flipping and spinning world to know who's kind of associated with other things and
CMLL.
what the right fit is for that.
It's Mexico, they don't care. That's not true.
All right, then let's get Black Taurus in here.
Yeah, right? Easy
that would
as that.
actually be really fun, honestly, because of the ring style wise, he's such a more in that wrecking ball feel. Preston Vance is an LFI, you know what I mean? So I don't know what the priorities for that faction are. But sincerely, Black Taurus was kind of the first one that came to mind just from a stylistic perspective. I think that could be very, very fun. We saw Kenny King on tonight, right? He's been previously affiliated with LFI before. Great job by Ian pointing that out. That would be very fun if he was going to step back in the picture here. But yeah, that's a tough one and one that I would need to think on, truly.
Right.
Well, now it's time to get pissed off, Reg. Mercedes Martinez defeats Trish Adora. Martinez puts Adora in a crab submission and she taps out. That's all I have to say. What the hell are we doing? Why is she... I know Mercedes has a great submission. Trish Adora tapping out shouldn't be happening. Trish Adora losing this much should not be happening. I don't think Mercedes is going to win this, so Trish Adora not getting the W. You have a chance to make Trish feel like someone important here by beating Mercedes, a former champion. You have a really fun opportunity to have Mercedes get really pissed off about that and maybe cost Trish Adora the title or somewhere along the way and have a side feud with the two of them, which makes me really, really interested. Trish Adora versus Queen Aminata feels like a home run to me. Trish Adora versus Leyla Hirsch in a more extended feud than the one-offs that we got feels like a win to me. I don't get what the hell we aren't doing with Trish Adora at this point. Try to be patient, getting less patient, now officially impatient. What the hell are you doing with one of the best women's wrestlers in the world and treating her like a pinfall eater after she was kind of presented as a big deal coming back from Japan? Lady Frost is nowhere to be found, and she was kind of presented as a big deal. I know not everybody can win, but why is she tapping out to Mercedes here? Just does not feel good to me at all. Like, I really think so highly of Trish Adora, and from a tournament booking perspective, unless Mercedes is going to win the whole thing, I just feel like you could have done something really special with Trish here. I don't get it. I don't like the tap out either. Should have taken more to put Trish Adora away, in my opinion. But man, it's one of the few pain points that shows up consistently week over week. We've turned so much of this product around, but what are we doing with Trish Adora, man?
It feels like the things don't match up. The way that Ian and Caprice talk about Trish, you would think that she's gonna win this tournament. Like, they're like, she did all these things, that she went to the train, and like they always run down her resume, and you're like, wow, this woman's great, but then she never gets the wins to kind of go along with it. So it's like, you guys are telling me that she's great, but if I don't know anything about her, all I see is on this Ring of Honor show, I'm not going to think she's great because she loses every match. Now, we know the greatness of Trish Adora and know that she can automatically bounce back, but I just want the commentary to match up to how she's being booked. Might be a lot to ask. I don't know. But beyond that, really good match. Mercedes Martinez, I think, is a contender like no other former ROH women's world champ. So she's been in the big seats and she could be in here again. She's one of those people, like I was talking about earlier, that like her and Athena shouldn't rehash shit. So her being able to get the same kind of heat and things over here for the ROH women's television championship, I think is cool. But yeah, Trish having to be the victim of this is just very unfortunate. And maybe it'll be a story that they're telling, Kate. Maybe this is the catalyst to the triumphant return of Trish or something. This is to a wider story that's being told later. That's what I would like to hope, at least.
I hate to compare talent, and I don't mean this in a bad way at all. Because Leyla Hirsch is not Leyla Hirsch. Leyla? Who's the Leyla that was in the baddies? Oh my gosh.
Leyla Gray.
Leyla Gray, thank you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Very new to this game. Mm-hmm. Has a ton of upside in her presentation and the way that she's able to play roles, and the appeal of her is very obvious when she is around the ring, right? But like, I feel like her and Trish Adora are treated almost the same. I guess we haven't really seen Leyla Gray around very much, but like, it feels like they were put in the same role in ROH, and Trish Adora like went to the New Japan dojo, you know what I mean? Like, and has one of the best bridging German suplexes of anyone I've ever seen. So it's very frustrating to me when a talent that great feels like they are not being established in a way that is representative of their ceiling, and not even close. But that's just me being cranky for now. We'll move on to things that make me happier. We get Lance Archer and the Righteous versus John Cruz, JC Valentine, and James Blackheart. This was an obvious win. I feel like maybe it shouldn't have taken so much for Lance Archer and the Righteous to put these guys away, because I feel like they're a really, really badass trio. And with like John Cruz and people we don't really know are as regulars in ROH, we probably shouldn't be taking kind of like more than a couple minutes really here. But I did like that John Cruz was managing to get some momentum against Vincent, because it's the one guy in the match that realistically, like size-wise, wouldn't take as much. But Dutch tags in, slams the momentum to a screeching halt here. Lance Archer and the Righteous hit their finishers in succession, and that is what this win was here. I said online that I felt like I would rather see, if I could choose anything in the world, if it's John Cruz, Serpentico, Bendejo, or if it's an option to have Cheeseburger, Eli Isom, LSG, maybe some people from that crop who would be affordable appearance contracts rather than different versions of these guys, the same guy rolled out. That would be my preference. Then Serpentico tweeted at me and assured me that there was only one Serpentico. So he did say those were three great names, which I felt very validated in. But I would say I'd rather have talent like that kicking around, putting on great matches in places like that than, because we've seen this, right? We've seen guys that are like backstage producers getting reps.
Yeah.
Like, you have a very, very loaded roster. If you're telling me it's so thin that you need to be using people under different aliases this often, like, I feel like that's wrong. So you should either plug and play with other people, or let's get some of that crew back. That would be really cool to me. But that's my only nitpick here, is just that I would love to see some fresher faces rather than like two guys in John Cruz.
Totally. It's I'll shoot him a little bit of bail. It's like, guys it's easier to put him in there than to fly a wrestler out or to do all that. So it's like, we need 10 wrestlers or blah, blah, blah. Well, he's here, just put him in there. That's probably how it usually works over here. So that's all the bail that I'm going to shoot them. This shows booking inconsistencies, because on another show, Lance Archer would have squashed all three of these guys in 5 seconds. So why can't you beat them with two other guys that are killers? So it was just like, I don't really know what you guys are doing here. If they are going to, wherever in the world that those trios championships are, be a contender for those, I'm in. But if this is just getting them on the show to beat some losers up, I'm not in. I'm out.
Yeah, that's a little, it's just weird. You're right. Inconsistent of what the in-ring is a good way to put it, because they've smushed other teams with more reputability than this, I think. Is reputability a word? If not, it should be. And I just made it up. Posting. Guys, feel free to get in your super chats if there's anything that you want to chat about. We are actually coming in at a reasonable time, so we might have a couple minutes to play with, which is almost upsetting considering how much I talk. But also, please leave a thumbs up on this video if you would be so kind. Definitely helps us out, especially on this particular show. It helps us out all the time, but with ROH and TNA especially. Speaking of which, Joel Pearl will be coming in here, and Cresta Star will be joining him to talk some TNA. Great interview with Steve Backlund that dropped earlier today from Joel. And on top of that, they've got a lot to talk about with the Scott D'Amore situation. It sounds like Fightful Select broke the news earlier today that a letter from several talent, not all talent, but several talent, was written on behalf of them and written to Anthem about the departure of Scott D'Amore, and them just voicing their frustrations about that, it sounds like. So not a lot of context for it, but it is on FightfulSelect.com if you wanted to check it out. But I'm sure they'll have thoughts on that as well. But we've got dejected Dalton Castle and the boys coming out against Kenny King, returning to this brand. Very cool to usher him into this era of Ring of Honor. This ends with one of my favorite Bang-A-Rings that has ever been done because of the shot that was filmed. You had Dalton giving the Bang-A-Ring to Kenny King and the boys just spinning around with him in succession, which they've done before, but the wide shot looked so good. But unfortunately, Dalton's just dejected this whole time. He comes down the ramp and his cape is just off to the side. His facial hair is not like very kempt right now. Relatable, honestly. Like, I get it. That's how I have felt. You know, I had COVID at the beginning of the year. Coming out of it, this was kind of what I looked like. I wasn't looking great. We have some fun post-match here too with Johnny TV, who comes down, and him and Taya do some jaw jocking and finally reveal what it's going to take for Dalton to get his match. And what they want is the boys, kind of as we suspected, Reg.
Yep.
Love this angle. Also very smooth by Ian Riccaboni to be like, what do they want with the boys? Does it have to do with their new show, Johnny Loves Taya, that you can get? Very smooth. We see you, Ian, getting your plugs in all into kayfabe. I like it. But fun match. Great to see Kenny King back, an LFI previous affiliate. So maybe there's something brewing there, but really, really like what we're getting as this story continues to roll down the hill. But that Bang-A-Ring with the boys in sync with him just absolutely pops me.
Yeah, this might have been my favorite thing on the show, honestly, just from a finally standpoint. Kenny King is ROH through and through. I've been so upset that he hasn't been here to represent in the new Honor Club generation of Ring of Honor. So him being here made me so happy. When I saw the graphic yesterday, it just brightened my day up. And he got a good showing here. It was in Henderson, which is close to Vegas. So he's from Vegas. He got a good ovation here. Had a really good match with Dalton Castle, even though Dalton Castle is so depressed. He can barely put his gear on. He could barely walk. He could barely talk. But he ended up getting the victory here. But yeah, I thought Kenny King had a good showing. That was the best part of the show for me. And I hope that he is brought back because he legit is a great hand in every aspect of the way here. He could be a producer, he could be a wrestler, he could just do anything in the things, and I think he would add so much more to Ring of Honor in all aspects. We love Kenny King over here. That's what it's all about. But yeah, Kate, we're finally getting here. Dalton Castle and Johnny TV are coming to a head. It's finally going to happen, and the boys are in danger, and we're not surprised because, of course,
in this game.
Yeah, what a time. What a time. But yeah, I think that adds another funny element. I'm sure that whole thing of if he does get the boys and he goes with them, the Johnny TV extras that we'll get out of it. Really good stuff here. And maybe we'll finally get Dalton out of this funk that he's been in because it's been depressing, Kate, for all of us.
It's honestly such a win-win for me because I feel like if Johnny TV wins, like this downtrodden Dalton Castle is going to be apoplectic. And I want to see what the rest of that spiral might look like as he's trying to win the boys back. I feel like that could buy you another month and a half of programming if you wanted it to. That could end up being a really fun pay-per-view match.
Yeah.
But I also love the idea of Dalton just successfully defending and getting to keep his boys. Johnny TV would be so flummoxed, but like this very short program of Johnny TV and Taya and the boys being like a weird stable, like the boys TV or whatever, like what that could lead to could be so much fun. So absolutely loving this. And a Dalton Castle who has completely lost it could be a very fun thing to see. But we move along to our main event, which is Diamante versus Kiera Hogan. Yes. Love to see women main eventing. Love that it's not just Athena main eventing too. Like we're getting some really fresh stuff for the women's division here. And a really, really, really fun match. Now, this was hard hitting. It was intense. It was explosive. The storytelling was great. Kiera Hogan, I think, is shining more and more in every single appearance that she has. There was this moment where Diamante just reacted and was so stunned by some offense that Kiera Hogan got in. I think just like elbows. And she just kind of looked at her like, where the hell that come from? Like really, really, really fun in-ring reactions tonight. But Diamante winning with a swinging neck breaker. That's what it was. It was a back elbow. I thought that was in my notes somewhere. It was this back elbow that Hogan hit, and Diamante was just like stunned and pissed off. It was a really fun spot. But also in this match, Diamante assuring Hogan that this was going to hurt her more than it would Diamante. Just really, really like cute in-ring storytelling. Loved this. There was a Hogan was put in the Diamante putting Hogan in the corner for shoulder to the midsection was just like some nasty work in this. But this was a really fun main event. It felt main eventy because of the way they just ratcheted up the intensity. Adored that. But to your point earlier, what I loved about this episode was how different all four of the women's matches felt. It's awesome to see that kind of diversity on matches that all have the same stakes, essentially. Yes. Some new faces that we hadn't seen in that first one, some really great technical storytelling in the second one. Way more intense than I anticipated main event here. Just really, really fun. Your thoughts on our main event tonight?
Yeah, I thought this was a really strong way to end the episode, kind of with this built-in story. We all know about Kiera and Diamante. They have history, some would say. So, you know that before this match, they were like, hey, we're going out there. No plan today. And they both were not playing today. They were both throwing everything that they have, trying to end their partner, their person in the ring and get the victory. I thought that Kiera looked great with her in the corner boots and butts. I thought that Diamante is on I don't know if they're on a trajectory of her and Mercedes maybe locking up, but they're two strong women in this that are going to be tough to beat. Diamante trying to establish herself as a contender, I think, is cool because remember for a while when we started the show, you were like, where's Diamante? With Diamante, big Diamante fan, and she's here now, and she's a contender, and she's having really fun matches with Kiera. I thought that this was a great way to end the show, a strong women's representation. And she's one that I would not be surprised if she won this.
Yeah, I could see that too. There's fun things that you could see happening when you look at the world title picture for the women and then this TV title of it would be really cool to have Athena and Queen Aminata. It would be cool to have Queen Aminata dethrone Athena and have Diamante or whatever. Or Taya and Athena feels like a fun combo. Like you can kind of play with these a little bit. So I really like the possibilities that this TV tournament is producing for us, and continues to be a fun thing since they announced this title. It's been something we were building to, and now it's underway properly. Love it. Love to see it. Love women's wrestling on Thursday nights, and that continues into TNA. Always one of the strongest women's divisions out there. But we've got another super chat from Meet Normus, who's always so supportive of us. Thank you, Meet Normus, saying, will Dalton Castle actually finish the story and get to smash Johnny TV's face, or will he continue to spiral into Luther's role with Timeless Tony Storm? I've been begging for some interactions with Dalton and Timeless Tony. I just feel like, God, there's such a match made in heaven, and you don't even really have to pivot that hard.
No.
It's such a home run, and I fear that Tony Storm might be working her way back to normalcy sooner than later. So I need them to capitalize on this while they can. But what a blast! Like that, we have these two very character-heavy staples on both shows, and I love that Dalton is so over in a presentation that feels so sports-based otherwise. Like, it's fun to have oddballs when the whole sea isn't oddballs, in my opinion. So, I really appreciate that. What are your thoughts on Dalton? Do you have a preference on him spiraling into the Tony Storm picture? Or do you want to see him win here? I kind of want them to extend this feud, honestly. Like, him and Johnny have been so much fun, and I feel like it wouldn't overstay its welcome with the possibilities that are there.
I like this idea of him continuously spiraling, because this would be the perfect way to kind of do it. He's already in this depressive state. If it just continued, he runs into Tony Storm and somehow they do something together. I think that's an amazing idea, and it could be some great content. But yeah, I kind of feel like the same thing for you. I think let's maybe stretch this out to Super Card of Honor, man, because they've earned it just with the weekly things they've been doing on this. I mean, we saw Johnny TV do the splits and be dragged away. You deserve something for this, dude. And a match at Super Card of Honor is the way. We can extend this thing just so both of these guys get a really big payoff, because a regular match on Honor Club isn't enough for what these guys have been doing. It's kind of like the Starks and Athena story that was being told us, well, these women have been killing it. We need to pay it off in a big way, make it the main event of the show. They need something like this, let's extend it, or let's have a big hoopla or something that shows you that this is an important feud. Both guys have been amazing in all of it, though, regardless.
I was so frustrated that Dalton didn't win the TV title, and this coming out of it has been awesome. What a fun way to go. And I do feel like you kind of want Bryan Keith to maybe be next one up. He's white hot right now. Maybe capitalize on how that feels for a TV title win. Him and Kyle Fletcher, I think, could do some really fun work. But before we hand it over to the TNA crew, one of which is waiting in the background, fixing his hair with his comb. We got a couple of minutes here that we can chat about some things. So I actually really liked tonight's episode of Ring of Honor, but there is an elephant in the room, which is that there are no champions again. Maddening. I gotta say, the frustration carries over to me on AEW, because it seems like the multi-man pictures on both of these programs is something that has been lost in the shuffle. Honestly, it doesn't feel... I was so excited when the Kingdom won, because I felt like they were going to be back around. Now, they have been more than our other tag team champions, as in ever, but you've got the 6-man belts being carried around by Bullet Club Gold, and we don't see them around here. Eddie Kingston's not around right now. Kyle Fletcher was not around today. Still felt like there was a lot of important stuff on the episode because of the tournament, but we had our champions around, and then they took them away from us again. Reg, did that hurt your viewing of the show tonight?
I think no, because of the importance of the TV title tournament. I think it's in this case, this is the only time where I'm going to be okay, it's not that bad that there wasn't champions, because they're trying to establish a new champion, and kind of them being the focal point of it, I think it's a great idea. And Athena was here, but she wasn't she wasn't defending her championship, but she was here representing as the forever ROH Women's Champion and the MVP of Ring of Honor. So there was some representation, but it does get frustrating. We consistently have to deal with this, Kate, of a ROH wrestler winning the belt and then, an AEW wrestler winning an ROH belt and then taking the belt hostage and never seeing him again on Ring of Honor TV. It's like, well, what's the point of that? I don't really understand. It feels like they're going to merge these belts. So that's something, but I don't know. It's not looking too good. We need to get back to it. Our ROH tag champ did have an amazing main event last night, though. So that's something.
There you go. It is true. And they've got Rocky Romero around. So if there's someone who knows how to help out with a brand that has too many belts, there's a guy who has experience with that exact pain point in Rocky Romero that broke earlier this week. I think it was reported by Observer as confirmed by Fightful Select. So very happy that Rocky Romero is in the fold. And I'm intrigued to see what his position is because he's so instrumental throughout the wrestling landscape. And one thing I would like
Rocky Romero.
The position is Rocky Romero, title Rocky Romero.
Yeah.
Or retired wrestler, like the WWE documentary had him listed. My God.
Weird.
But I would love to see crossover between New Japan Strong and ROH. So Rocky being around, maybe we get that. Because I'll tell you what, Anthony Henry put out that he wanted to fight Shingo Takagi, and I was like, I need that. I need that immediately. So, but we are going to bring in the TNA crew. We are remarkably done on time, even before that time. A wild situation tonight, but TNA, lots of stuff going on over there.
Did you guys, Joel and Cresta, did y'all sign the petition to get Scott back?
No, we were the ones who wrote the letter, clearly.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, I penned it.
Cresta said, yeah, I penned it.
We did the third and fourth draft, and then the final one went through the talent, and then that's how it went.
Nice.
Breaking news here. So
tell the world.
What is going on over there, you guys? It's a crazy. TNA is just like they had this resurgence, pun intended. Like all these things are happening in a good way, and then these wild stuff just start happening out of nowhere. It's like this isn't what we wanted. We were having a good time over here.
I have to quote my little brother. When I told him about this, he said, "This is a very TNA thing to happen."
That's
TNA.
the thing, though, Cresta. It's just like, this is so TNA.
On brand. They rebranded and we're like, we are going back to our old ways right now.
They're like, you guys want
said we
TNA?
were going
Here
back. We meant it. Joel kept saying, we're not getting the 6-sided rings back, but they said, hey, we're getting everything else, baby.
Some of those talent have walked back that answer about not wanting a 6-sided ring.
Really?
I think Jordan either told Shawn or Denise that she would be open to having it not as a full-time, but as like a gimmick if they did a few gimmick matches.
Oh, yeah.
She would be cool with that.
You know,
but I was just like, no, go back to not wanting it. Because also, like, if you do a 6-sided ring, you got to do a full show because you're not going to bring a 6-sided ring in for just one match. Can't do that.
A War Games match with one 6-sided ring and
bring back the one night only
ring.
shows.
Well, it's like, yeah, you could do it like that, but also, like, I'm thinking back to like SummerSlam 1998 when they did the Lions Den match, and you had to do the Lions Den was like in a separate theater in Madison Square Garden, and they filled up that theater. And like, sure, you could do that, but like TNA is not 1998 WWF.
I was gonna say, you could also not do that, which is a better option in that situation. But Joel, I did plug your interview with Steve Macklin. It upsettingly sounds like you guys might have buried the hatchet a little bit. So that hurts my feelings. But
yeah, we're besties.
Yeah, that's gross.
Well, they fired Joel's dad, Scott D'Amore. So I think there's solidarity. The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
You know what? I like that.
A job when we spoke, so we got that going for us.
Joel's dad, I'm dead.
Every week there's a picture of Joel side by side with Scott D'Amore. Have you ever seen them in the same room? Somebody on Twitter said, you ever seen Joel and Joe Gacy in the same room? I don't know. I'm just asking the questions.
Listen,
I think Joel's the hardest working man in wrestling because he also is Scott D'Amore and he's also Joe Gacy on NXT. Busy fella. Joel's the forbidden door all this time.
But listen, you guys want a big scoop? You want a big scoop?
Yes.
Okay, you know how Scott D'Amore brought a banknote to Anthem, was like, I'm gonna buy this thing if y'all want me to. I heard it was from the Bank of Mercedes.
Oh wow, Joel, giving away the business.
Hold on a minute, dude. $5 for this, Joel. You can't just be giving them out for free like this.
Yeah,
That's not really. Don't run with that. That would be just awful. Didn't know really think.
Aggregators, knock it off immediately. Stop.
I've had enough people do weird things on our ITW show. I don't want to
Mm-mm.
No, well, as a woman on the internet,
he said here.
They're gonna start getting messages from TNA staff. Like, what the fuck you talking about?
Yeah, why'd you say that?
Like,
for the jokes, people. It's for the jokes.
You want scoops? Go watch Shawn Ross Sapp. If you want yucks, watch this.
That's right.
You know, Kate, you have to do an interview with Serpentico now that he's called you out.
That's true.
I know Serpentico and only Serpentico, definitely not also John Cruz and on occasional Bendejo.
No, leave those guys at home.
Different people. Also, never ask him when his last victory was because he will know.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I did that once in an interview, and he actually knew.
Subject.
Yeah, he was like, I beat Barry Morales, and it was June. I was like, holy shit, it's in my notes. You actually hit it right on the head. So good for him.
People know, they remember those wins and losses matter at ROH. So there you go.
This was in AEW. That makes it even worse.
Oh my gosh. Pre-rankings, post-rankings?
This is 2022, so rankings were in effect.
Wow. There you go. So he should know them. But well, we will turn it over to you guys. Thank you so much for hopping in here, talking some TNA. We'll get out of here.
TNA.
Have a wonderful show.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, it's us.
We did it, Reddit. We did it. My hair is just falling apart. I'm falling apart. I feel like a dinosaur just used me for fossil fuel at this point.
Well, I mean, listen, that's kind of something that the world needs right now. So you're doing service.
Joel Pearl is witty tonight.
I'm a lot of things tonight. As always, I'm tired. But hey, we got a tight 45 in us, don't we?
Hey, I mean, Impact tonight was an Impact episode. And I have thoughts and feelings, but I'm not going to share any of them.
It was very Impact. It was very TNA Impact.
Yeah, I finally understand what that means in its entirety. This was a very TNA Impact episode.
Yep. It was harmless and without foul, and it got the points across.
And if you didn't like anything, you could just really close your eyes really tight, and it was funny.
Yeah, actually, in some ways it was.
Listen, you can enjoy wrestling. You just got to put your mind to it.
You ready to do it?
Heck yeah.
All right, here we go. Hello, friends. We're back again. It's Fightful.com, and it is time for your TNA Impact Post Show. It's February 15th, 2024. I am at Joel Pearl, and of course, with me, as always, the wonderful, the beautiful, the fantastic, the talented Cresta Star joins me. How are you, Cresta?
I'm doing great. We had an amazing show of TNA. Okay, not amazing, but it was a show of TNA, and I thoroughly enjoyed professional wrestling this evening. There were some times I wish that the professional wrestling was more wrestling and less professional, but here we are. How are you doing this evening, Joe? What do you think of the show?
Listen, the show was inoffensive. I think it was what it was. It was the middle of a 2-night taping show. That's really what it felt like. It's not a bad thing. That's just kind of what happens when you're taping wrestling, and you got to figure out what you're doing, what your storytelling is, and you're splicing in backstagers and little interviews and PCO just yelling, "Con, no surrender!" And you're just like, all right, it's one way to get a match.
I mean, honestly, there was a lot in here that introduced new characters. Every match, I feel like, had a theme, especially the first one. Frankie Kazarian just likes to swear. I don't know what's going on with that. I don't know.
He's a bad guy now. That's what you do. You swear.
Okay.
That's right.
Got it.
Like Boys to Men, I swear.
So that's not Boys to Men.
I know. This is not good.
I had to think about wait, what?
I just brought that back. We did this once before. Anyway, folks, if you haven't already, leave a thumbs up on the video. And of course, you can subscribe to your youtube.com/Fightful. I dropped an interview with Steve Macklin today. Very fun one. We had a really good chat. Believe it or not, Steve Macklin and I had a very good chat. We got along just fine. Nobody assaulted the other. Unlike Macklin in Puerto Rico, this was Pearl and Macklin in Vegas in a hotel room. Nobody went through the window. We're all good. So go check that out, youtube.com/Fightful, or on any podcast feed that you listen to when it's Fightful, leave a 5-star review there. That's going to get you into different contests we run as well. And of course, it's just nice. Be nice. Leave that 5-star review on any of the pod platforms. Would you? Okay. We'll talk about Fightful Select later. You can drop a super chat, any amount, get your question or statement read on the air, or you can head over to humperchats.com. Cresta, tell them.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, you can take your thumbs or your pointer fingers or all 10 of your fingers if you are good at typing and head on over to humperchats.com. There you will input your question or your comment to tell Joel Pearl or Cresta Star, hey, I like TNA. What did you guys think about Moose yeeting Kushida around? Any dollar amount gets your comment or question read live, but we get to keep just a little bit more of the portion of the proceeds. We're happy. The Decepticons are happy. Sean Ross Sapp is happy. Humperchats.com. Do it now.
Get to the chopper.
Chopper.
All right, let's get to the Impact Zone. Jake Something takes on Frankie Kazarian. This match was fun. Again, going with the inoffensive theme of the night. They made Jake Something look good despite the loss. Frankie Kazarian does win with a roll-up. He grabbed the bottom rope as he did it. He had whipped Jake Something off the top rope, which was really good stuff. But Jake Something throughout the entire match was just a powerhouse, and Frankie sold like hell for him. This was good stuff. What do you think of Jake Something and Frankie Kazarian in the opening contest?
Don't mind it. The theme of this match was you son of a beep. I don't want us to get demonetized. But every time there was a little bit quiet, all you heard was Frankie Kazarian, you son of a beep. You sound like, yo, you healing it up, but it's giving Uncle from the 80s. I don't hate it, but it's kind of funny. This match was really good for Jake Something. I do agree in that sense that he looked really beefy and strong. I also want to give Cass his flowers because he did a floating leg drop onto Jake Something that just looked like he was floating. He got such great hang time because Jake Something was like in the middle of the ring for all of that. Eric Young creeping in the background is kind of becoming my favorite thing in TNA. I mean, he does elaborate on it later in another background vignette, but this was a good match. It was a solid match, like you said, inoffensive. But Eric Young just being a creep, I want him to keep this up. I don't think it's gonna happen because he wants to do it man to man. But I kind of want him to just be like, I've had it. I'm going to stalk you.
EY is going to be face-to-face with Frankie Kazarian. That was the backstager after they go back from the curtain. And EY just saying, you know, I've listened to Frankie Kazarian talk about why he did what he did, and I understand what he did, but I want him to do this man-to-man because we're going to settle it man-to-man. So next week, face-to-face in the ring, Eric Young, Frankie Kazarian. Looking forward to that. And of course, there's going to be a match that comes out of this, and that's a good match to watch. So we'll get there. But for the match itself, right at the top, man, Jake Something just whipping Frankie Kazarian so hard that Kazarian flips over the ring and over the ropes and out of the ring. I love that. Again, it's those little things. You talk about the crowd. This is one thing that kind of bugs me about the post-production with Impact and TNA. I've been there. I've seen it. I've experienced it. The crowd isn't always hot. It's like it really depends on the match. It depends on just who's in it and what the heat's like and what happened before or after. When you're in a position like this, I really wish that they would have some sort of extra crowd noise, just some chatter, something. It doesn't have to be like over the top, like what WWE sometimes does, and they sweeten up the crowd. No, just like some baseline something, some chatter, so that it doesn't sound like an empty room where these people are bumping and trying to get the crowd going. Like you said, Kazarian was just swearing and yelling, trying to elicit any reaction.
Yeah,
like, that's totally understandable. That's totally part of the gig. But I wish that in post they would kind of help them out a little bit and not make it sound like you're in an empty room, because we left that studio after the restrictions on COVID were lifted and we were back on the road. So it's maybe time to start moving forward with the audio production.
Not you suggesting TNA cook the books. That's crazy.
Listen, if you're doing software integration into your product, you may as well software some audio fixes here and there.
I respect it. Do what you got to do to get in where you fit. And it's not like you'd be out of place. Just, I don't know. I get what you're saying, though. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm not saying you have to like pipe in the hottest crowd ever. I'm just saying like just this. It's called the 2K crowd because that's what WWE does, is that they take the crowd noises that they put in the 2K games. It's just ambient noise. It's just if you go to any sporting event, people aren't just cheering, they're talking. It's just the sound of the game. I want that sound of the game to be included into the show. Otherwise, it just sounds empty.
Yeah, sometimes when you're a noise canceling, cancels too much noise, please.
That's it. So Eric Young and Frankie are next week. They're going to be face to face. Jordynne Grace takes on Savannah Evans. It's a pretty quick match, but I don't hate it. Jordynne Grace getting the best of Savannah Evans. Evans just keeps getting distracted throughout the whole thing, and eventually she's talking trash to Giselle Shaw. Easy for me to say. Talking trash to Giselle Shaw, who is on the outside. Grace hits Evans with a muscle buster, gets the win. Post-match, Giselle beats up Grace and Savannah Evans with that big red X, hits the denouement on Jordynne Grace, and then raises up the Knockouts Championship and the big red X. What do you think about this? I got one other thing to add, but I'll let you take over, talk about this match.
This match between Jordynne Grace and Savannah Evans was what I like to call a Big E special. I don't want no 30-minute classic. I don't want no red holds. I want 2 big meaty women slapping me, and that's exactly what I got. Savannah Evans and Jordynne Grace was working stiff, and this was like what 6 minutes or something like that, and it was like meat. It was a meat match. It was all meat, no potatoes, no gravy, just meat. When the finish. When Savannah Evans turns to Giselle Shaw and says, if I win, I'm in it, right? I wrote in my notes, you fucked up.
What it was.
Because Jordynne Grace, even though she is quote unquote small, she's so strong, bro. And she put her in a muscle buster, not a kind of muscle buster, I don't know if I can get you. You are a backpack. And I would not want to fight Jordynne. You couldn't pay me to fight Jordynne Grace. I'm taking the finger poke of doom. That was it was a good match for me. There's nothing wrong with it, but that was a Big E special, baby.
Yeah, you know what? And again, there's nothing wrong with going in and out in 6 minutes like that. I wanted to draw one moment. This was actually a good fix that they had. You had Jordynne Grace go for a moonsault and didn't really land it completely. They had it was a sunset flip. She was trying to do that, get into a power bomb. And next thing you know, she kind of missed it, and then she had to reposition. But instead of just trying to get her legs back from under her, she turns around and she kicks Savannah Evans into the turnbuckle, and then does the knees to the back, and then the basement elbow to the face, and then the Vader bomb, and they turn that into a 1 count. I think that is the better way of pivoting when you've made a little technical error. A good way to pivot, instead of just trying to reach back to grab the legs. Instead, you just move forward, spin around, kick her in the butt, and then she falls into the turnbuckle. I think that little bit of just ring awareness and psychology, that stuff is cool to me. I wanted to shout that out because in the moment that can look really silly, but when you go back, you watch it and you're like, no, I get that. That's why it should be there. It's good.
No, I agree with you. Now that you've pointed that out, that is smart, because oftentimes we do see people, if something happens where you don't quite get the move that you want, you'll just go right back for the move. And she's like, well, fuck it. Oh, I'm swearing a lot tonight. What's going on, Pirate Mouth Cresta? It's like, heck it, we're just going to go and we're just going to do something else. And it still looks smooth. It looked like, okay, to me, that's the tinge of realism in wrestling. That you can't plan for that. But if you're good and you know your stuff, Savannah Evans was like, okay, I'm with it. And Jordynne Grace was like, we're going to pivot. And that's what's important. That's a really good call.
Yeah, they made the right choice. It was good. I wanted to shout that out. Ashby Elegance is backstage with Gia Miller, and then out comes our pal George Iceman, who is no longer just George Iceman. Now he's just
a Corsair.
Yeah, who is he? Nobody knows except for everyone.
Iceman.
And then he tells Gia Miller to hit the bricks. Says that Ashby Elegance is a major announcement, and next week she's going to make her in-ring debut in TNA, and then the limo's waiting and they're going to run off. Again, inoffensive. I know you're waiting for more from Ash, but at least we got something in-house, quote unquote, and not just a filmed vignette.
I was very happy to see George Iceman.
All right, we'll talk about the match next week when it happens. Don't expect too much. I mean, like, it's not going to be like a 20-minute match. It's her debut. It's gonna be what it is. It's gonna be a squash. Yeah. Where will we get our intel now? Iceman's intel is well, so is BTI. But like, what are we gonna do?
You're gonna get your intel from FightfulSelect.com, the best $5 in the business. Do you want to know more about the TNA Scott D'Amore situation?
No, let's do this. The letter from Anthem from the talent about Scott D'Amore is available on the free tier at FightfulSelect.com. The best $5 in the business. Drew McIntyre's contract update. You want some news over on FightfulSelect.com. Best $5 in the business. AEW news and notes. Grapsity drops a Q&A today as they do every other week. Tons of news and podcasts and content. And SRS does a Q&A. There's tons of stuff over on FightfulSelect.com. The best $5 in the business. Get your intel from our Iceman.
We are the Iceman, the best group in the Impact business, not signed to Impact.
That's right. That's right. Call me Anthony Ciccione. Sounds really bad when I say it.
And call me Crystalis Marcan Staraptor. I don't know.
Not even close to Italian.
I just be making stuff up. I just say, to quote Taz, you ask me questions that I try my best.
Yeah, I got to be Joel Perleone now, I guess. I don't know. At least
Somebody
we're both
gonna hire one of us one of these days.
Listen,
Y'all gonna make it work.
at least the VP is Canadian. I can do that. I mean, so is Scott. Anyway, sound check with Alan Angels and Simon Gotch. They still haven't fixed the backlighting. Damn you, Alan Angels. Fix the backlighting on your show. Anyway, I really like this. This was really, you wanted to get some storytelling as to why Simon Gotch attacked Josh Alexander. This was it, and this is how you do it. And it's so simple, and it's so effective. 5 years ago, Gotch says, Josh Alexander overcomes a broken neck. He overcomes the ban that he had from going into the U.S. to work. He fought a match in front of Scott D'Amore at Destiny Wrestling here in Toronto, in Mississauga, and the match was so good that Scott got up from a commentary table after the match and offered Josh an Impact contract. The match was against he was Simon Grimm at the time, but the match was against Simon Gotch. And Gotch said, like, this all happened because of me. I pushed you to your limit. I gave you the best match of your life. Your legacy is built on my bones and on my corpse, and I'm going to come up and I'm going to bite you because I'm a zombie now, is effectively what he said. And then Alexander kind of comes in through the door and he confronts Simon Gotch. That's the end of this segment. But I love that they gave this match some background.
Yeah.
They made it make sense. They rewarded you if you knew. Probably not going to find that match anywhere, so I'm glad that they paid that they brought in some footage. But I'm glad that they brought this in, and I'm glad that they talked about the history between these two and why this match matters. What do you think of this segment, the sound check with Alan Angels and Simon Gotch?
I thought that this was a very effective thing for Alan Angels. One, because last week it was very much, Mom said you got to do this, little brother, and now he's stirring the pot. It's a very effective way to be an instigator, and I like where this is going for Alan Angel. So kudos to him, because this is great for him. Now, I am not familiar really with Simon Gotch, and everything I've heard has been he's a great wrestler, but a grumpy old man. But I can name 5 grumpy old men in wrestling, okay, and 2 of them in their FTR. That being said, this was great. So I'm coming in with this with fresh eyes on Simon Gotch. This, to me, provided the context of why you attacked him. He made a very good point that you built your career off of my dead body, bro. And everyone will remember you. Everyone will talk about you, but they don't talk about the other person that was in that match, me. And you went on to be one of the greatest Impact World Champions. And what did I get? Nothing, pretty much. Also, Simon Gotch, without a mustache, I thought that was EC3. I am so sorry.
Yeah, it's a bit shocking when you see the mustache.
Yeah, I was like, oh my goodness. Like, I don't know. That was definitely different.
Yeah. No, it's good. I'm really happy that Simon Gotch got the chance to go in and do this, and it makes sense of it, because otherwise it was just like, oh, he's baddie of the week. It's just going to be some guy who makes up a reason why he wanted Josh Alexander. No, there is a history there. They're playing off of it, and the history does directly, correlate to Josh Alexander's success. So this is good stuff. I'm looking forward to how they play this out, because the two will face off in No Surrender, which is next Friday. We will be doing a post show. Whether or not that's with me and Cresta, we'll see, but we'll be doing one regardless, probably here on youtube.com/Fightful. GYV versus ABC, match number 2 out of 3. Lance Storm put this match over heavily all week on social media. He basically implored everyone. He said, if you like wrestling, if you like tag team wrestling, you have to watch this match. And he was right, because this second match was on par with the first. I haven't decided if it's better than it, but it definitely lived up to the hype. We're now tied at 1. ABC gets the win. They do a lot of selling and a lot of working over Ace Austin's shoulder and arm. GYV is doing a very classic style match again, but I like where this went. Let's talk about it. Cresta, what do you think of the match? And talk to me about what you thought.
Now, I've heard it said that us as wrestling fans, we don't like to be surprised, so we think we know everything. And going into this, I'm like, there's no way the titles are going to change hands. So what's about to transpire here? And I was very sports entertained. Zach Gibson is a jerk. I gotta say that.
They're both jerks.
I mean, yes, but the way that he was getting underneath Ace Austin's skin in the beginning of that match, wouldn't even wanted to wrestle Chris Bay. Like, get this man out of here. I don't want to speak to him. I want Ace Austin. You're so mad about your arms. And they were able to goad him into the ring and then beat him up essentially for the majority of the match. The chemistry between these two, off the charts. I thought I wanted the Rascals to take it off of ABC. I wouldn't mind seeing a ping pong situation between GYV and ABC just because I like ABC. But I if this ends up with GYV winning, well deserved. This was such a good match. Okay, I have this, but there's so many arrows, so I know it must have been good. He dumps Drake on his messed up arm, finally hits a tag team to Bay from Chris. That's when Ace Austin got the hot tag because he dumped Zach Gibson on his bad arm because Ace Austin was working with one arm from last week. Ace Austin was selling this match too. And this match was good. This match is the kind of good where it's like, I'm no wrestling expert, but this is one of those matches where I'm like, you could watch this and then watch your favorite tag team match right after and be sports entertained. And you'd be like, I could see it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, this is a traditional tag match again. There's nothing wrong with that because it obviously plays out very well. You have GYV cutting off the ring again and completely controlling Ace Austin. They've injured Ace Austin. They're going after the arm. That is a baby face waiting to happen moment for Ace Austin. They build that up. They use that as a big selling point. Gets the hot tag to Chris Bay. Bay comes in House of Fire. Like, this is a very traditional match. There's one thing that really annoyed me, and that is the referee. Frank Gastineau's the referee, and he's not really trying to get Gibson out of the ring at one point when he's clearly not the legal man. Gastineau's just kind of standing there like, oh, okay, well, it's a double T. It's a 2-on-1. They're basically going after, I think they're going after Bay at this point. It just didn't make sense. I like that Ace couldn't assist Bay doing the art of finesse. And then that leads into the Doomsday Device from GYV for that near fall. And of course, Ace has to fight from underneath and get that fire back again. Bay stopping Gibson from hitting his part of Grit Your Teeth. That gets into Ace getting a cradle on James Drake with the neck bridge because he's fancy. Gets the win, tie game. This was, again, just classic, good wrestling, tag team stuff.
I didn't hate it. I loved it. I'm becoming a fan of GYV. They are really good. They are such good crap talkers. They are under your skin the whole match. They're yelling at you to do something. They're like that kid when you play video games against and they're really good. And you're like, are you going to press the A button? Oh, I know you're going to throw me. You're like, yo, shut up, bro. I'm going to fight you in real life. Shut up.
So these guys are going to have a match for the TNA tag titles at No Surrender. Grizzled Young Vets ABC. It's tied to 1. This is going to be a really, really fun match because so far, first two have been a lot of fun. So we're looking forward to that next Friday. Let's move on. Dango. Oh my God. This is
what a pretentious.
Such a trick. I loved it. This is so stupid, but so perfect. He's like, looking back, I probably wouldn't have gone to Killer Kowalski School. I would have gone to the Dale Earnhardt Jr. School of Pro Stock Car Racing. He calls Will Ospreay Will Ostrich. Says Speedball Mike Alexander. Mentions a 5-star match that they had. And of course, Alexander and Speedball individually both had 5-star matches with Will Ospreay. He's like, my dad doesn't know who these guys are, but he knows who Scott Norton is. And I'm like, as we all should. And he says, this is the most truthful thing Dirty Dango has ever said in his entire time with TNA, probably ever. He said, you want to know what a main event will be anywhere in the world? Oleg Prudius and Scott Flash Norton. And I was like, sign me up. You want big meaty men slapping me? That's the match you want to see.
I'm already interested. You said meat.
Yes. Oleg Prudius, you already know who he is. Do you know who Scott Norton is? Are you familiar with Scott Norton?
I do not know who Scott Norton is. I know who Graham Norton is.
So Scott Norton, not Graham Norton. He's much smaller and much more British. Scott Norton, Scott Flash Norton, was the man in WCW. He was this big hulking mother, you know what? He was part of the NWO. He was known as like the most badass guy. And then he goes to Japan, equally most badass guy. That's a match I want to see. Big meat man Scott Norton and Oleg Prudius.
I love a good meat match. I'm sad. I'm watching. I'm already interested.
Sign me up. Let's do it. I want that more than anything. He says, he turns around, he's like, where's the Panda Energy card? I'm like, no. Just taking
This
shots.
man was the worst. I don't like why do you hate like they said, why do you hate professional wrestling so much in the beginning? Like why like do you even like wrestling, bro? Like
well, now him and Prudius are going to be a tag team, and I don't hate it. And he's like, so call the number on the screen. We're going to flash a number on the screen, and there's no number. He's just like, well, we'll beat up anyone. We're going to sign up to wrestle us. And of course, his
not
whole
anyone.
Prudius.
Only people from wrestling schools under their first year.
Yes. Dango just being the worst piece of shit. I loved it.
This is peak heel work. This is the kind of stuff you you go to school and study.
Give me, I swear, just give me Prudius and Norton. Just give me Scott. Just give me Scott Flash Norton. Bring him back. Just one. He can go. He can get beat up. He can beat somebody up. Let's go one more time.
Let's go.
Speaking of which, Ali is back. Well, he's not backstage. He sent in a video. He's basically saying leadership is needed most in great change. And he says, I can be the leader that can take the X division into the future. I'll revitalize it. In Ali we trust, yada, yada, yada. Good segment. Ali's coming. No surrender. It's going to be him and Chris Sabin for the X Division Championship. And then the good hands, they put over Ali and they pledge their support alongside these guys.
Yikes. I'm sorry. I heard you say yikes. That's the answer I had.
These aren't the type of people who would typically be supporting Ali in my eyes.
Come on now. It's the irony for me.
That's true. I mean, the guy in the back in the black TNA shirt, he probably would. He'd like Ali.
I mean, this gimmick by Ali is just... I love a good on the nose irony. I do. And this is so on the nose. You could call it Willy Wonka or Bozo the Clown. It's I'm here for it.
Either way, this is good. The good hands are just being shit talkers. And Sabin is off screen. They turn around. He's right there. And he gets pissed off. He takes it off on another Ali supporter. And they're like, he's cracking under the pressure. He's cracking. And like Sabin's pissed off, and rightfully so. So I like this. This is just straightforward heels being assholes. And now next week he'll get Hotch versus Sabin. And I'm sure Sabin will break Hotch's arm.
You be a good hand, but not a good arm.
Break his hands. Show him what
Break
good
his
hands.
hands. Break his hands.
Break them good hands. Speaking of breaking things, Digital Media Championship, Rhino versus Crazy Steve. I don't have much to say. This is a short match, a fork for a belt, and Steve pins Rhino.
Literally, I'm watching TNA with my friends because I want my friends to watch wrestling with me. Right before the finish, my friend was like, "Are you even watching this?" I said, "Kind of," because I know what this match is hecking for. Rhino's going to get forked. And Crazy Steve is going to get the pin. And then the ye old bait and switch. Boot fork. Belt to the head. And I laughed. I just laughed. This is sports entertainment.
It's something.
Jake something. I mean, this was not I knew what this was. And I'm just glad. I will say I am glad that Crazy Steve didn't actually stab Rhino. Also, what a heel. You know people love tables and ladders and chairs. And when Rhino pulled out the tables, the crowd went crazy. And what did you do, Steve, in true heel fashion? Put the table away. Yes, clean up after yourself, but also, what a jerk.
Again, the match was inoffensive. I don't know if they'll run it back. I feel like they should because there was a belt shot. Maybe they'll do it on the countdown. I don't know if Rhino needs to win the Digital Media Championship right now.
I agree. I feel like we're still building Crazy Steve in the Digital Media Championship role, but I don't want to see him just keep squashing people too. You know what I mean?
Yep, I agree. Let's move along. PCO says Khan, no surrender a bunch of times. Do you have anything to add?
I don't have anything to add for the next two things. So
No, let's talk about this. Is the best shit ever. Dina versus Joe Hendry. The look on your face. Okay, Joe Hendry's on his way to the ring. AJ Francis appears and he starts rapping over Joe Hendry's theme. It was good. It was solid. It was fine. Jeremy Lambert can still do it better. Says he comes from a long line of shooters. Out comes AJ Francis. Says now it's TNA J Francis. And then Joe Hendry's like, oh, so someone wouldn't be prepared, would they? Who would have a backup video now, would they? And he turns around and they do the zoom in and he's just like, play the video. That's the AJ Styles theme. And
bro, I lost it. Because even I know that. I lost it.
And you just go, you are banned from diving. And then he talks about the video. Does the hands and everything. And then he talks about the video that Francis did on the boat. And he says, it's your 3 hot friends you hired and your best friend, Steve. And it's this random white dude with red hair.
Steve got such a crazy pop, bro. Everyone started chanting, Steve.
That was just the dumbest, most amazing thing ever.
Listen. On Collision, somebody said I was being very negative, so I'm trying not to be negative tonight. But I will say that I'm so glad Joe Hendry had a response video. That's the most polite thing I could say. There is. I implore you to, if you want to know how I feel, and you can go look this up as well, Joe Pearl. There is a clip of Iggy Azalea rapping on Sway's Sirius XM, whatever it is, and they take callers, and a caller calls in and says, "Get that off the air." So I implore you to look up that exact reaction, and that was me while the Joe Hendry theme was still going and AJ Francis was still rapping. So
no, he's talking about the kids say he has Riz, I guess. I don't know. Tired.
You know, if you say it, sure.
No, I'm the last guy to say it. Diener then attacks Hendry from behind. The match never gets started. Francis comes in, chokeslams Hendry, and then Rich Swann comes out and he takes out Cody Diener, and then he walks up to AJ Francis. Francis kind of cowers down and walks away. This might turn into a tag match. It might be Swann and Hendry versus AJ Francis and Cody Diener.
You know, I will say this, because I like to give constructive criticism. I'm not just going to poop on something. I will give AJ Francis for running with the heel heat, because everybody booing the boots off this man. They booing the brakes off him. And he's leaning into it being a piece of crap. Like, I don't care that you like me. I'm going to be here. And I've got a lot of money. So kudos to you for turning poop into manure and fostering plants. I give it up to you. I give it up to you, because the crowd and the Impact locker room is not here for you. So fight the good fight, my brother.
Good God.
I'm not wrong. That the crowd, even when he was going up the ramp, was chanting Steve. He's leaning into it. And not everyone can take that. Some people get real mad if you're booing them, especially if in their mind if they're a baby face. So I'm a professional crap talker. I'm not a hater for real. Like, I'll give it up to him. I've seen people in bigger positions get booed and get mad that they're getting booed. And he's like, you're still reacting. It could be worse. You could not react. So
yeah, they are reacting. That's what you're here for. That's what you want to do. Then you know what? Someone who talked about that with me was Steve Macklin, about being a heel and working heel style. So go check out that interview that I dropped today with Steve Macklin over on youtube.com/Fightful. They show the footage of Macklin assaulting Nick Nemeth at WWC in Puerto Rico. That was a few weeks ago now, but it's a good little interview. Gia Miller is backstage with Macklin and the Rascals. And then he's like, why did I go to Puerto Rico? I wanted to show that my actions were my words were stronger than my actions, or my actions were, I forgot what the words were.
I think my words were louder. No, I think my actions were louder than my words.
Thank you. Got you. Appreciate you. Yes. And then he's like, and then he says, well, I went to show the world. And I was like, it's a Dolph Ziggler reference. That's good stuff. And then Speedball Mountain comes in and Trent Seven challenges Macklin to a match next week. Trent Seven's first singles bout in TNA. I'm calling next week Macklin's Mustache Mayhem.
I like that. I'm famous for trying to say people's what I think their wrestling full name is. So it could be your name could just be Steve Macklin, the wrestler. This man said Steven versus Trent. I like this mustache man. He has my attention.
You mean Simon Gotch?
All right, knock it off.
That mustached man.
We are talking about Trent 7, the man who is after number 6, Trent 7, not to be confused with EC3 or number 2.
That's fair. What happened to EC1 and 2?
Where's EC? Where's the original EC3? EC. Who's EC?
You want to know where the original EC3 is? He's in the NWA.
I meant just EC, the original EC. If he's the third, what happened to EC 1, 2, and 3? And who's the second? Who's the original?
Well, no, there's only one original EC3. He's not EC3 Junior.
Well, you're not getting the joke, Joe Pearl, and I don't want to play this game.
Oh, EC1 and 2 was a Dean Ambrose joke back in WWE 5 years ago.
Who's EC0? It's like the Final Fantasy. What was the first one?
The first one was the first one.
Oh my God.
And
Joe.
7 was the one people liked the most. 0 was Chrono Trigger. How's that?
that was a very nerdy good joke.
Don't ever say I ain't paying attention. Killer Kelly and Danny Luna have a match. Danny Luna gets her first singles win in her TNA career. She's a strong woman, Danny Luna is. Doing a fireman's carry on Killer Kelly. That's some wild stuff. Finish is very simple. Masha Slamovich tries to get involved. Jody Threat stops her. Danny rolls up. Killer Kelly gets the victory. For some reason, the lights turned red for the celebration for Danny Luna, whose colors are not red, they're green. And then MK Ultra beat down the Luna and Threat tag team, and then DK show up and they run off MK Ultra. There we go. Simple, effective, telling stories.
Spooky, scary. No, Danny Luna looked great. Also, I kind of like Danny Luna and Jody Threat together. I was worried they're going to put all the redheads together, but this works for me. This works for me.
Hey, he's red and green. But listen, December, TNA is going to be wild with Luna and Threat gimmicks.
All they need is a blonde, and they'll be the Pop-Up Girls.
What's Giselle Shaw up to? No, that's awful. That's awful. Got to be a different blonde for this one. Oh,
Ash by Ellering. Oh, goddamn son of a bitch. That one brain cell is working overtime tonight.
Oh, I love that we did that. Oh my God.
We instantly thought of it at the same time. You're like, I would pay good money to see her be like, these girls are boogers. And they're like, we're going to wrestle, girl. Not like that. Come on. And she's like, oh, I got to wrestle with these monsters.
That would be fantastic. Just the
I'd live.
Oh my God. Folks, we're going down the home stretch. Send your super chats. Get your humper chats in. Next week, Sabin versus Jason Hotch. Macklin versus Trent 7. Moose Myers and Edwards versus Shelly Kushida and Kevin Knight. And Ash by Elegance makes her debut, not as a Powerpuff Girl. No surrender card so far shaping up. PCO versus Khan. That's the main event, right? Obviously. Josh Alexander, not Jason Alexander. That'd be an awful match. Josh Alexander takes on Simon Gotch. MK Ultra versus Decay for the Knockouts tag titles. Jordan Grace versus Giselle Shaw for the Knockouts championship. Sabin versus Ali for the X Division title. And Shelly versus Moose for the world title. Good little card shaping up. It's going to be on YouTube. It's going to be on The Fight. Go check that out. Kushida versus Moose is your main event. Again, it's a highly inoffensive match.
To me, this wasn't a match. This was more of Moose sending a message. Kushida gave it all he got, but Moose was abusing that poor man. At one point, I'm like, is there in a goddamn bell? Like, it was, from the word go, it was Moose's match.
So, yes, but Kushida does a really good job of getting those hope spots in. And when he does, all of his offense is triggered towards the arm, which is really like the arm and the shoulder. So, like, he's got his target and he knows what he's working. And that's what makes this match, to me, a little less of one guy beating up another guy, a smaller guy. Like Kushida can overpower in his own way, but Moose is power. He's a champion. You know he's going to win, but there's a moment they do the spear into the code red that gets you the great near fall towards the finish, and that's good. The double moonsault, and then it turns into a hoverboard block from Kushida on Moose. That's good stuff. Moose has to scramble to the ropes. That's good stuff.
Yeah, even the spot where Moose has Kushida by the arms in the arm post, and Kushida's able to reverse it back into Moose's arm. Kushida has a very has a unique way of getting out of really strong power spots and turning it into submission. I'm not saying that Kushida was a sloucher. Kushida was also selling like Moose was beating the out of him. But I will say that, again, from what I saw was Moose saying, I'm going to do this to you, Alex Shelley. And everything I'm doing to him, I'm definitely going to do to you and way worse, where he's going to know what this feels like so he can throw in the towel. And even commentary put that over, talk about the system. They know it's business. They know that getting to your brain psychologically, while Time Jacket gun friends, they all know each other. They're all been wrestling, and Kevin Knight may be the new guy, but that's Kushida's road dog back in New Japan. Pardon me. So you've got to play to the psychological game. So that's what I took away from this match, that Moose was really trying to send a message saying that Kushida's going to be the one to throw in the towel on you, because he's going to see how much I beat you up, and he knows how this feels. So you don't got to even try. And I think also too, Moose not taking Kushida seriously is part of Moose's gimmick, because he don't take nobody seriously. But I think that's why, again, sports entertainment, I'm thinking that's why Kushida was able to get that stuff in. It wasn't until you got serious and kind of like cheated, you know what I mean, and then get the spear. Yeah, but yeah, no, Moose did good. I think this was a very good showing for Moose.
So I like the idea that you brought up about Kushida being the one to potentially throw in the towel, because he's had experience one-on-one with Moose, so he knows how how aggressive Moose can be in the ring. I like that. And again, this all plays into who's going to not turn, but who is going to be the one to throw in the towel. And that's why, again, like, I get what they're trying to do with this match. I still think it's convoluted.
Yeah.
There's a premise. Again, there is an idea. There is a premise here that you have 6 guys, 3 on each side, and Lish, of course, is on there as well. They are basically controlling the fate of this championship match, which is a very strange thing to do, because none of them are directly involved with Moose or Shelley in the title picture as of right now. So I don't know what they're going to do, but I still think it's a little overdone. Again, I'm willing to let it play out on Friday. It could lead to a very interesting story. Someone turning, someone going a completely different direction, or Shelley, throwing in his own towel. I don't know. But yeah, that's just kind of my thoughts on what will happen or what could happen at the main event in No Surrender.
I feel like I've only seen this maybe once or twice other times in wrestling, once in AEW, once in WWE. And it's a great way to further storylines within a group. If you want to break up the system afterwards, why did you throw in the towel for me? You should have just let me pass out. I can't believe you would do that. I had more in me. Like, bro, the blood was literally squirting out of your brain. I had to stop the match. Oh, I have 5 more minutes. You did this. You were going to die. Like, you want me to let you die in this ring?
And that's the other problem, is that you cannot immediately break up the system. You just set them up in January. Like, they were part of this TNA rebrand. Suddenly they were together because, like, you had Edwards and Myers starting to team, but as Impact was kind of like going dark, there was nothing for, like, Moose was just kind of off to the side and being like, figure your shit out. And then suddenly they're all together as a united front at the show at Hard to Kill. So, like, you can't kill off the system so quickly.
Yeah. And then it's like, when I think about Motor City Machine Guns, or even Time Splitters, or any combination of these guys, including Kevin Knight, these are people, well, let me not say including Kevin Knight, but those 3 men are like Impact, TNA, loyal, original, faithfuls. Kushida will always be welcome. There's always an open door. And Kevin Knight every week improves and shows his worth, and shows that he's a contender for the X division, a contender for the tag division, hell, even a contender for the digital media heavyweight championship. So I could see it. But it also could be like, hey, we need to have some friction. We need to do something. And while it's more understanding on the Time Jacket Machine Guns friends tour bus, it's going to be less understanding on the system, because it's just business. And if it's business, why? It's the quote Andrade, my business is my business. So why are you in my business?
Okay, how you know?
Okay, but let me ask you something. How you know? I know because I subscribe to Fightful Select, the best fight.
So, Cresta's working on her segues, and she's doing a great job. A+.
Kate would be proud of me.
Would be. Listen, you did it tonight, and you did it really well. By the way, once again, I remind everyone, we do have a free tier, and that free tier on Fightful Select does include any injury news, any Vince McMahon news on the allegation front, lawsuits, stuff like that. And the Scott D'Amore stuff has been, we've been doing a lot of reporting on the free tier as well. We published today a letter that Talent had sent on behalf supporting Scott D'Amore and wanting, basically contesting his firing. So go check that out. It's on the free tier over on FightfulSelect.com. Otherwise, best $5 in the business, and you can get a lot of exclusive news and a lot of exclusive content. So go follow us over there. That's Impact. That's TNA Impact for February 15th. Next week, we're back. We're going to talk about Impact on Thursday. We're going to come back the next night and talk about TNA No Surrender. We're going to have plenty to talk about because we always do. Cresta Star, what you got going on?
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's always a pleasure when you guys hang out with myself and Joe Pearl over here on Fightful every Thursday where we talk about Impact Wrestling. Saturdays, you can also catch me here on Fightful with myself and Iridian and Rick. I'm dying. It's the end of the night. My voice box needs to be cranked up, so I got to hurry up. We go over all things Collision with you Colliders. Next week, I'm going to try my hardest to be here for No Surrender, but your girl got a muggle job because these chickens ain't clucking. You can sometimes find me over on Twitch and TikTok at Cresta Star every Wednesday where we can watch wrestling together and play video games. If not, every Thursdays and Fridays here on Fightful. If that was a lot of information, Cresta the Star on X, Twitter, whatever the Utes is calling them. Follow me. There's a link tree in my bio. Joe Pearl, where can the children find you?
Easy to find at Joel Pearl, JOELPEARL on PEARL on all socials. It's late for me too, let's face it, because I do a morning show Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays over on our sister channel, Fightful Overbooked, called In the Weeds, 10 a.m. Eastern until noon. Tomorrow, because I screwed this up last time we were on the air. Well, no, it wasn't my fault, but Masha Slamovich joins us at 11 a.m. on Friday morning. If you're watching us now, or if you're going to listen to us later, go check out In the Weeds because Masha will be joining us. She is the new JCW champion. She's going to be going for those TNA Knockouts tag titles as well. So we're going to talk to her about a whole lot of things, and you bet we'll ask her about Scott D'Amore because there's a letter that went out. So we'll be talking about that and plenty more. So go check that out. In the Weeds, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Fightful Overbooked. Tons of content every single day. Till then, ladies and gentlemen, friends beyond the binary, we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.